Welcome everyone to the CKA study and exam tips. Tonight we'll be going over a lot of study and exam tips to get you ready to get your certification. So the agenda for today, we'll have 10 minutes going over exam tips. Then we'll have 10 minutes going over how you can study and be more efficient in your study to get your certification. And then we'll go over a few practical examples as well. And then at the end, we'll follow up with a 10-minute Q&A, and then we can have a discussion around if anyone's having any problems with anyone, and see if I can help out. So yeah, I'll be your presenter today. I have my CKA and CKAD as well. So you can actually do this talk yourself as well. So all the slides that I do, I commit them to the CNCF presentations repo. So after you pass your exam, if you're looking to sort of pass the knowledge on and share it with the community, you can go and download these slides and have permission to do that. And you can change them however you like. If you want to, give talks to your team or run a meetup event yourself. So special thanks to the SIG so that's the team that is responsible for doing all the documentation in Kubernetes. So they've done a great job with the documentation. Without them, it would have been harder for me to pass the exam. So they're doing a great job. And if you do want to contribute to that group, you can follow them there. And you can also reach out to them on the CNCF Slack as well, which is the 2 links down there. You can also, if you have any other problems or questions with CKA, let me know. Like I'm more than happy to help you out. So our group can be found here in the slack.cncf.io and under the CNCF community manual. So yeah, we're here to help you if you get stuck on an issue or a bit confused about something. So now we'll go over the exam overview. So why sit the exam? This exam is probably one of the best ones I've done. So it's 100% practical. So it really gives you the skills required to go and work in production Kubernetes. And it's very hot on the market at the moment. There's a lot of jobs in DevOps that require the certification. So it's a really great one to improve your skills. And for the CKA, this is how the questions are broken down. So you can see there's cluster architecture, installation, and configuration. So for cluster architecture, if you haven't done the introduction to Kubernetes course yet, I would highly recommend that you go back and do that first. So you don't have to, spend months and months on it. You can go over it once, and that's probably enough to be able to get into the CKA. But I do highly recommend that you do the introduction first. That will make all the concepts and things easier to follow when you are studying for architecture and installation over different nodes, and just understanding the basics of it. So yeah, I recommend that. They go over workloads and scheduling, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. Services and networking, that's 20%. Storage 10, and then a lot of the points are on troubleshooting. So if you can, learn a lot of the basic troubleshooting, that can probably get you through passing this exam, which we'll talk about as well. So this is what the certification looks like. The hardest part about studying and doing the CKA is that after you do the exam, it takes 36 hours to get your results back. So everyone's always on the phone checking, did I pass, did I pass? And that's probably the hardest thing about it. So generally, they send the results back about 20 hours after you sit it. So I used to sit exams normally on Saturday lunchtime, and then I'd get the result Sunday night. And then now we'll go over some exam tips as well. So if you haven't booked the exam yet, I recommend booking the exam. That sort of sets your goal So it makes you study harder and more structured. So you can reschedule this exam as many times as you want. So I probably reschedule something crazy like 10 times because, you know, we all have priorities that come up in life, such as, you know, work is getting harder. So you have to time back the study. But if you book the exam, then it will enable you to study more. And you can reschedule as many times as you want, 24 hours in advance. So just make sure that if you are thinking about rescheduling it, as soon as you think that, just reschedule it. And the exam's $300 US, and there's one free retake as well. So I failed my CKA the first time, but the first one was almost like a practice test. So and then passed it on the second time. So don't worry if you don't pass the first time. I can imagine that a lot of people don't actually pass, and then just that gives you the knowledge of what you need to do for your second one. So if you attend the Cloud Native Con, KubeCon, you actually get 50% off CKA, CKD, CKS exams. So it's a great event as well. So I recommend if you are thinking about booking and your company isn't paying for it, then jump on the North America one is probably after. So that will have early birds. I got my early bird for $10. So that's a steal. I'm planning to sit my CKS soon. So that's very cheap to get 50% off for a $10 ticket. So that's one way you can save on the exam fee. So this is what it's going to look like on exam day. So you'll need your ID ready. I always use 2 screens. So a lot of people don't know that you can actually use the Kubernetes documentation as well. So I have the documentation on one screen, and then I have my exam portal on the other. So on the right, you can see that's sort of roughly what the exam portal looks like. So on the right screen, left side, you can see you'll have exam questions. Generally, there's roughly around 20 questions, and then you can flag ones that you need to come back to if they're harder. So let's say if you're not that good with networking, doing network policies, etc., you flag that and then go to the next one, because one thing you'll find is that your time will run out very fast. So don't be scared to flag them and go back later. And just make sure you're always in the right namespace and you're in the right context as well. So there'll be roughly 3 or 4 clusters that you need to connect to, but the portal will give you those. You can copy and paste that, and you don't need to worry about how to set the context and stuff. That they give you the command to do that. And yeah, obviously you need a camera and a microphone, so they need a microphone on just to hear that you're not talking. They only accept clear glasses of water and no food. And then sometimes even if you're sort of talking to yourself out loud over a question, they won't let you do that because they think you're talking to someone. So always sign in 15 minutes before the exam starts, because it will take you 15 minutes to walk around the desk, make sure that you don't have any writing anywhere, make sure you take things down from the wall, and then obviously you have power cords, etc. already. So that's pretty much what the exam day will look like. And yeah, it consists of 15 to 20 performance-based questions, and then each one has a weight. So just be really careful about the weight. You don't want to spend half an hour on like a 2% question. So really focus on the big percentages, and it's you're really going to run out of time. So you just have to be really, really fast, and don't spend all day proofreading your work as well. If you finish early, then you can go back and do more proofreading, but just do your basic checks to see that you've done things properly. And when I go in at the start, I go sudo -i. This will be given to you in your exam instructions, and that will just elevate your privileges. So you won't be sitting there mucking around with not being able to write like your YAML files, and it's just much easier to do it straight away. And then they'll also tell you that you can SSH to the node name and how to do that as well. So you don't need to worry too much about that. And there'll be hyperlinks. So when they have namespaces, let's say, okay, I want to Nginx pod in the BN450 namespace. They always have a hyperlink of the namespace. So just remember to copy and paste that, because if you spell it wrong, then it's going to fail and you'll miss out on those questions. And the copy and paste will be different on the day. So it could be something like shift, insert, or delete. It'll tell you how to do that. It's actually in the exam handbook that you can read before as well. So, and always use imperative commands over YAML. So when back in the day when I first started studying, I was doing a lot of YAML, but you really don't have time to write YAML files in the exam. Always, go to the kubectl. They have cheat sheets and documentation, so really get used to doing imperative commands. So when I was making my YAML files, and I would always, because generally you're saving the YAML files in the same system and you don't want to get confused, so I would name my YAML files with the question. So I could have one.yaml, or if I had to do a service after, then I would put -service just so I can distinguish that, and then that would help me when I'm doing my proofreading later on. I can come back and then just check them out, and I know exactly what question they relate to. So you can see that command kubectl run example -o will give, obviously you probably already know this, but it gives you the YAML, and then you can output it to one.yaml. So if you needed to do changes to that to add more things, you just go into the YAML, and then you can modify the file. And then the first time I did the exam, I backed the file up because I was a bit paranoid, but the second time I didn't worry about it. But if you do want to back it up in case you do an error, then you can just go CP for copy, and then just go 1A or something for the backup. And then obviously you can create that file with the command there. Alias, so a lot of people use aliases normally. I didn't choose personally to use aliases on the CKA just because you're going into different nodes and different clusters, and I found that quite annoying. So I would type like K run Nginx, but then it says K is not recognized or whatever it says, and then it just caused me more problems. So I ended up just using kubectl and typing it out instead. But you can choose if you want to use aliases or not. For the CKA, I use aliases, save a lot of time. So that's up to you. And then, just make sure you're always in the right cluster. So you can go kubectl config current context. That will tell you which context you're in. And then, you can, what I normally do in the YAML file as well is I see here I'm typing the namespace. So in the metadata, I always type namespace just to know that I'm not going to accidentally forget to do it in the command. So I just always make sure that, for the question, you're in the right context and you are deploying it to the right namespace. Because if you deploy to the wrong namespace, then that won't, you could have the best answer in the world, but they won't mark that as correct because it's somewhere else. API resources. So this is a really cool one. So especially when you're starting to study, you can type, if you forget something on the day, there's a lot of pressure for the exam. So this will give you short names. So I would see when you're studying and preparing for the exam, just go through the API resources. If you're typing out, let's see here, like a really long one, such as persistent volume claims. If you're writing get persistent volume claims, then that's way too long. You just need to type PVC. So if you don't use aliases, that kubectl API resource is a really great one to look at. They also have reverse search. So if you press Ctrl R, that will give you reverse search. So that will come up with recent commands that you run before. So say I'm just running kubectl, and then it will help you remember things. You know, you might be making lots of pods or something like that, and reverse search will just make it a little bit faster. So you can play around with that and see if you like it as well. Watch command, this is quite helpful as well. So instead of typing, let's say kubectl get pods to make sure that your pod or your deployment's running, that's annoying. So if you type watch kubectl get pods and namespace with div here, it'll you can just drink a glass of water, relax for a little bit instead of just keep pressing the keys and saying get pods, get pods, get pods. So I found that quite helpful as well. That will just poll it every 2 minutes until it comes up. So that's a good way to take like a short break in the exam. Yeah, kubectl help. So this is a really cool one as well. So I'm doing kubectl run help here. And then even though you probably studied a lot of these and it's in the documentation as well, if if you're under pressure and you don't remember, you can use the help and that will show you a lot of stuff. So you can see here, they're doing how to do labels, environment variables. The help command is really good, and it will really save you from going and looking through the documentation if you need to, let's say, run a pod with specific environment and variables or something, and you can just copy and paste that and then change it to what you want. So a lot of questions that I've had with the CKA is the etcdctl. So it's not, this is one of the harder ones to remember. So there's probably about 3 or 4 parameters that you actually need to remember when you're doing the backup, and this backup will come up in the exam. So how I personally do it is I use the help command as well. So this was really helpful. So you need 3 parameters that you need. If you forget them, then you just type snapshot save -h for help, and then in the next slide I'll show you what comes up. So for snapshot save help, that will come up and it will say the parameters are CA cert endpoints, and it'll just remind you what ones you need to use and how you use it. So I would recommend spending a little bit more time memorizing and just spending that extra bit of time to practice the backups. It's quite an easy thing, but if the documentation is not quite there, then yeah, I recommend focusing on that time because that will give you quite a few points as well. And then the same goes for restore as well. So yeah, you need like the data for the data directory there. The certs again, endpoint there. So that will help you if you become under pressure on the day. Kubelet problems. So generally, when you're asked to troubleshoot the kubelet or something of that nature, don't try and go too crazy to start with. Try something real nice and easy first, and that you might find that solves the problem. So this one's quite a good one to use. So this one, you can find this in the kube admin upgrade documentation. I'll give you my bookmarks as well. So this one will restart the kubelet, and generally, you just have to restart it. You might have to do a few other things, but just try that first. And then we'll go over some study tips now. So yeah, just for the exam tips and summary, just really learn the etcd because that's something in the documentation that's not quite clear. So study tips, these are all the different courses that you can do. So the Linux Foundations group, Udemy, Code Cloud. Sorry if I haven't put your one up here, but yeah, there's a lot of different places you can go for study. Different companies also have different subscriptions that you can leverage. So yeah, lots of good ones there. I personally used Udemy just because my work had an account there, so I found that was really good. I did a course by Mumshat Manabeth, and he was really great at explaining things, really technical things in an easy way. So I really enjoyed his course, and that was linked to kubectl as well. So if I didn't do the hands-on labs there, then I wouldn't be able to pass. So what I did is I did all of the Udemy course. I made sure I understand it. And then as soon as I did the course, I went on to the practical and just spent all my time in the practical. And then because it is 100% hands-on, so you really need to spend your time on the keyboard. And some people don't know that you can actually use bookmarks in the exam as well. So this is one thing that really helped me pass. So yeah, I can, in the Slack channel, I might put all the bookmarks afterwards. I do actually recommend that you make your own, because then you're indexing your own documentation, then you know how to find it. So yeah, I would. What I would do as well is on the practical, when I was studying, instead of referring back to Udemy, I would actually refer back to the documentation, because on the exam day, you won't have access to Udemy or all the other study providers like Linux Foundation. So really get used to those bookmarks and where your documentation is, and you can have that running on the other screen, and then it's just becoming so natural to you. And even after I've done my CKA, I still use these bookmarks every day anyway. So it is a really great asset to have. And yeah, you can see here, I have so many bookmarks. I can just, on the question when I need something, I can just go through and find out, this is one of the commands I mentioned before. And I just have everything indexed in order from what I did on the course of things I need to do, like static pods, security context, everything. So I highly recommend that you use bookmarks as well. And also spend a lot of time with the kubectl reference docs. You can see here that's on my first bookmark on the left there at the top. So you'll use this a lot. It's, to do your rollouts and deployment history. It's easy points. So really get used to the imperative commands. They will save you a lot of time. And if you're from a development, background, and you're not really used to Linux and Vim and things like that, I highly recommend that you at least do like a basic course in that, because if you don't, then you're going to have a little bit of trouble in the exam, because a lot of it's navigating through Linux and Vim. So Vim's pretty much the best editor you can get for Linux. You can use Nano if you really want, but when you go to edit deployments, etc., that's going to by default come up in Vim. So I would just, if you don't know it, I would go and learn it. So you can find a cheat sheet at that website, vim.rtorr.com, and that's the one that I personally use myself as well. So just for some real basic tips on Vim, there's two modes. You probably already all know this, but one for writing, one for deleting. So you press I for the insert mode, and then escape for edit mode. When you want to escape out, a lot of people get stuck because they don't know how to exit Vim. So you don't want to embarrass yourself on the day doing that. So you can press escape and then semicolon Q exclamation mark, or W if you're on the right tool as well. One thing that I found really useful when I was doing YAML files, so there's a lot of unnecessary data sometimes if you copy a YAML file from like a pod, for example. So I would use DD. So what DD is that will delete all the lines. So you can use, if you want to delete, let's say you have that metadata in the deployment file, for example, you don't need that. So you can press like 50dd and that will delete 50 lines. And then it just makes the file a little bit easier to use. And then you can do search. So if you want to change the image or something like that, you can just press escape, then /image, and then you can go and find where the next instance of image is, and that will help you go through those big files. And then set number is quite a good one too. So if the deployment says, okay, this YAML failed at line 20, you can then go set number, and then that will show you line number. So then you can just go straight down to 20 and fix it. Otherwise, you have to be counting, and that's just takes too much time. So some people, as soon as they get into the exam, they can change these by default. I personally didn't worry about that, but if that's something you want to do, there's probably about 5 settings that will help you out, but you can do a bit of research on that as well. And then these are probably the basic Linux commands that you'll need to use. So pretty easy stuff. Grep, the third one down, that's quite a handy one that you'll use quite a bit. So essentially, when you pipe it, it'll search for the text that came out of the first command. So cat, you're reading the file and then you're grepping for the image. So you're saying, read all this file and then tell me where the image comes out, and then that's good for like saying, what is the image running on this pod, and you can do stuff like that. And then if you want to go into the video that we showed before, you just go V, and then if you want to make a new file, just go V deployment.yaml. So if you don't know Linux, start learning. And then just probably running out of time actually, but I didn't put much on here anyway. I was more trying to give you more exam tips and study tips over actual content. So this is just I would learn upgrading a cluster. I would imagine that instead of making one from scratch, I would imagine that they would just ask you to upgrade a cluster with the kube admin. So you can see, maybe take a screenshot of that. You've probably already done it, but that's big points as well. So that's a pretty easy one to learn. All you need to do is download the version that you want, and then just go upgrade apply, and then that will go upgrade. Just remember as well, they might say only do it to one node. So just really read the questions before you actually press the button, because you might upgrade the wrong node or do something that you didn't read to the end. And then it's as easy as well to upgrade the kubelet and the kubectl. So you can go through quoting and quoting the nodes as well before you do it. That's some easy points. And another thing that you should learn is JSON path. So if you're not use JSON path, there's some courses out there as well that you can use. So I didn't actually know JSON path before this exam, and it was quite a good skill to have. So I actually used it before as well, like in times after the exam. So it was quite helpful. And if you're like a developer, it's pretty easy to get your head around. If you're cheeky as well, if you didn't have too much time left in the exam and you had a question like this, like let's say, give me a list of node and the names, then you could probably just manually type that in a text file if you're running out of time. But I do highly recommend using learning JSON path. So just a few examples as well. You can see all these slides that I'll upload. And then this, only recently I found out that -A does all namespaces. So I used to write -- all -namespaces. So here's some just little tricks that you can find. We've spoke about most of them, like API resources, the help command, aliases, And then if you're getting pods for certain labels, you can specify that as well. And then these are pretty much from the kubectl reference doc. So instead of trying to type these out in YAML, I found it really easy to use a imperative command, and then it'll do it for you. So remember, you can always run these commands and then put it to a YAML file anyway. So it's going to save you a lot of time. Config maps, these always come up. So you could, yeah, kubectl config map or CM if you want to be sure from the rule. And then, so I would learn doing, I wouldn't worry, there's different ways that you can do config maps, but generally you just do something nice and easy like that with the from the rule. And then that's just on the side there, it's a reference of how you can reference that in the pod. And then the same for secrets as well, same sort of thing. You don't have to encode the value and add it. You just use the CTL and do it for you. And then, yeah, going into logs, this is quite handy to use. So whenever you go into a container, if you look at the third line down, you can see kubectl exec ypod C container. Like, so the C is if it's got more than one container in the pod. And then you can cat the logs. So sometimes they'll ask you for the logs in a log file on the container. So just make stuff familiar with them, or if you want to go into a pod that's in a different namespace, always remember to put the namespace, the -n namespace straight after the kubectl, because it won't work at the end of your command. So that's something that I wasted 15 minutes on being confused about that, because actually you're executing the command at the end of the right there. And then there's a cheat sheet as well, which is quite a cool document to go through and then pick up some other common commands that they use. So for the metric server, you might be asked, what's the top node? Output that to a file. So that's easy points. All you need to do is go kubectl top node and top pod. So that's just something very, very easy for some points. Remember the metric server as well. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that I just couldn't cover in the time. For services as well, you can do that through imperative commands. And remember, another one, actually, a command that you can use is the explain command. So if you're ever in the documentation and something's not coming up, so when I did my exam host path, they didn't have that well documented. They do now, but the way that I would remember is I would say kubectl explain pv -- recursive. You don't need to use recursive, but it'll come up, and that will define what the YAML expects. So if you're ever, worried about how that works or you forget something, you can use the explain command, might help you out as well. And then for the persistence, use it, remember your correct access mode, storage request, namespaces, make sure that they match with the persistent volumes. And that's some easy points as well. And then, yeah, just to conclude, don't be afraid to fail. There is 2 resets. It actually acts as like, pretty good practice test in the end, and you'll realize that you'll get a high score the next time because you know exactly what to do and what to study. And then, learn your Linux, learn Vim, learn kubectl and JSON path as well. And then if you're not in the Slack channels for CNCF and Kubernetes, I recommend that you join them as well, because there are a lot of great people in the community that will help you. So there's lots of channels there where you can reach out and ask questions, and if you want to contribute as well. So if you're studying and you realize that there's something not in the documentation, you can actually create an issue in GitHub, and then that's a great way to do your first sort of contribution to Kubernetes if you're into it. And there's just some more important links that we went through. And just remember the slide, I'll commit to the CNCF presentations after today. So in a couple of days that will come up. And then now we'll go to the Q&A session. If anyone has any questions or anything they want to discuss, please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, oh, sorry, I haven't started the Q&A, I'll just start it now. So I've just started it. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, you can talk to me on Slack or LinkedIn or whatever. So yeah, thanks for coming. And if you haven't joined us on the CNCF community, you can join and then see when all the other events are coming up as well. So thank you very much. I see we've got a chat coming in now. Just thanks, yeah, no problem. I hope it helped, and please let me know how you go with the exam as well.